All right. Hi, everybody. Good to see you again. And now, normally I like talking about the Bible, but I do talk to friends about politics and Bible because I guess, you see how in America we can vote. And I've got friends that are Democrat, far left, and I got friends that are conservative. I'm conservative. And so I voted Trump over Hillary, but I can see how my friends on the left, some of the things they say, but in politics and our faith, that does affect our life. But I'd much rather talk about the Bible, things like that. But there's some things that I noticed have started to infiltrate into the Christian churches. Now, I wasn't raised up going to Christian churches. There's a history of my parents. My grandparents came from Mexico, Catholic, and so even my dad's first language was Spanish. But the thing is, they didn't rely on the government. They relied on working, not taking handouts from the government, stuff like that. So they were very independent. On my mom's side, they were ranchers working with horses on big ranches and cattle and the land. And my dad's side, they had cattle, sheep, hogs, geese, chickens. They would work cattle in the land on smaller areas, so it's not like they needed as much work with horses. But anyway, and me, I work with horses. I trim the feet, I pick out the manure, and look at the feet. Well, I think a lot of times with reading the Bible, you can eat that up. But a lot of times what people say, you better have a hoof pick because they're saying things that doesn't even line up with the Bible. Now, I love the Bible. It's great. You've got this Old Testament that was put together by the Jews before Jesus, and then they're talking about the Messiah who's coming in, and then here comes the Messiah, Jesus, Lord, and then these men that walked with him, the apostles, Peter, Paul, John, James, Stephen, and like the woman caught in adultery, all that, these who had turned to Jesus. So you have that New Testament, and it fits over the top, and looking through the truth, the light is shined on it. But I notice people bringing in things that aren't true. And so I wanted to address something that I saw Mike Pence when he was speaking to AIPAC. Now, AIPAC is the America Israel PAC. And he was speaking, and I took some notes about what he was saying. And the reason I want to bring this up is because I got friends and family. I don't like seeing them get deceived. And there's some things that he was saying in here that I don't think are Christian, and I don't think is for America. Now, I noticed that our freedom of speech has been taken, and you know where I first noticed that was in churches, because I'm not Zionist, meaning, okay, Zionism and Christianity are two different things, and actually Zionism and Judaism are two separate things. So many Jews, whether you're the religious Jews or non-religious Jews, do not agree with everything about Israel. And a lot of people don't know the history of Israel, because when I came into the churches, I was really skewed towards everything pro-Israel and Zionism. And that, all these guys were good, the people of God, and it was by a miracle of God that they're even there, and all these people that fight against them and God saved them. Well, when you start looking at the history, you find out that is a bunch of propaganda. And that's what governments do. Governments will throw a bunch of propaganda, and all our governments in the world, there's people in them that, don't you wish, and there are people there that they do wish that their country is just, even if they do things different, because every nation is going to do things different. But you kind of wish you did things just. Well, God is the one who is just. He is the one that is right. But let's go over some of the things that Pence said. And remember, I voted for Trump and Pence over Hillary. Well, he said we must root out anti-Semitism out from every part of our society. It is a threat to us all. Well, I can see where, yeah, you wouldn't want to be racist against anybody, whoever it is, and anti-Semitism. Well, actually, anti-Semitism would be the Semitic peoples, which that actually would be with those Arabs who come from that land also, technically. But even if you want to apply it just to Jews, of course you wouldn't want to be racist towards Jews for that things were out of line with justice. That's not right either. But it says, it is a position of the U.S. government that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Well, that's really, to me, that's just plain stupid. So you're going to tell me that if I am not for Zionism, I am racist against Jews? Okay, now I defended the right because the left, they will use this racism card that, you know, they would call Trump racist all the time. And I would say, hey, look, the guy's not racist. I've looked at everything he said. My wife's Filipino. The Filipino families, they don't believe he's racist. The Mexicans, most of them don't believe he's racist either. But the thing is, people want to label people a certain thing in order to control. But the thing is, I see the right doing the same thing as the left, and I don't like that. It's wrong. I tell my friends on the left, if you're going to criticize him justly. Now, I liked a lot of things these guys are doing, of course, but I was always very cautious with this connection with Israel like this over America. So where it says make America great again, a lot of times it's been make Israel great again, and I don't agree with that. And I don't agree that they're actually a good ally either. Now, what else does he say? Oh, he said, Vice President Pence said, Trump said, America will seek the destruction of those who seek the destruction of the Jews. Okay, so he wants to put himself as looking out for the Jews, but actually they're looking out for Israel. And AIPAC gives politicians on both sides a heck of a lot of money, and if they don't like you, they will give money to your opponents. So you cannot get voted in. Okay, we all know the ancient hatred that they are stirring up. Okay, ancient hatred. So I notice that what Mike Pence is doing, because Dory Gold, the former ambassador to Israel, he spoke last year, and I noticed him using the same language that Dory Gold was saying, and they try to make themselves out a victim, that's always been Israel. Well, actually the Romans 2,000 years ago called that Syria Palestina. And so a lot of people don't realize that when the Zionists moved in, and they were looking at Zionism real early on in the 1800s to push for a place where they could go. They were even looking at Africa or Argentina as places to go. So you hear that thing, land without a people without a land. Well, the truth is there were people in Palestine. There were Muslims, Jews, and Christians getting along there before the Zionists went in there. So they went in there, started buying land, and then after that they started ousting forcefully people out. And that kind of reminds you like Muhammad. Muhammad also, he talked peace in the beginning, but once he got that sword, he started forcefully using it. And a lot of times in history you've seen some Christians forcefully using a sword too. But to follow Jesus, these men of Christ, you notice they actually never picked up a physical sword, as far as they were preaching the truth. The sword of that was coming out of their mouth, the truth, that's what they were doing, preaching the gospel, and people were turning and being saved. Meanwhile, these guys are getting persecuted and even killed for their faith. Now countries, of course, countries have swords. God gives countries a sword that they should be going against evil and being just and righteous. But every nation of the world falls short of the kingdom of God. Jesus is the Messiah who came, head of his kingdom. So what else does Pence say? Oh, it requires action. Israel has benefited humanity in untold ways. our most cherished ally. Well, I don't believe they're a cherished ally. If you look at how many times they have spied and used terrorism, no, they're not really an ally. We will always call out those who try to cloak their animus towards Israel. So we can't disagree with Israel inside the phony mantle of friendship. Well, if we can agree on one thing, it should be this: those who side with Israel's enemies must never be allowed to call themselves friends of Israel. Well, I side with justice for any nation. Now, every nation does some things that are unjust, but I want justice, which is only going to come through Christ ultimately. It is wrong to boycott and slander Israel. So, I can't say anything against Israel. What happened to the Constitution and the freedom of speech? It is wrong to boycott and slander AIPAC. Well, I don't agree with AIPAC. They're just funding for their own purposes. So we give tons of money to Israel, who calls themselves a democracy. They're not really a democracy. And they actually do treat the Palestinians not good at all. And a lot of people that I'm not saying this is against all people in Israel, because I've seen how they'll ask the people in Israel questions, and they'll ask them, well, what was it like before 1948? And they'll say, well, we did get along, Muslims, Jews, and Christians together. And then they'll ask them, well, what happened? Well, politics. See, even they understand, a lot of them, that it's the politicians who really screw up a lot of things. Anyway, let's move on. The most pro-Israel president in history must not be replaced by one who would be the most anti-Israel president in the history of the nations. But I just don't like that you can't say anything against Israel or AIPAC, because that is coming against your constitutional rights. Okay, we are, as you are, AIPAC proud. No, I'm not AIPAC proud. So I'm not for a lot of the kinds of things. We give tons of money to Israel, and they actually do better than America. And so I think our politicians on both sides, it's definitely on the left. And would I vote for the left? No, they're a bunch of liars. I have noticed that, and I think that's bad for America. I would rather have the left to come up with good candidates that were just, but no, I don't see any good candidates on the left either. Now he says, the Jewish people turned the desert into a garden, hope to a future of security and prosperity. Well, the only thing that's going to turn that's desolate to being fruitful. And I noticed this is Zionism that infiltrated the churches, because they did infiltrate the churches, and it went into the Christian schools to teach everything pro-Israel, the physical, carnal, earthly Israel, and the earthly people, and the earthly city. But the one, Jesus said, your house has been left to you desolate. That's dry and desolate. Now he said that 40 years later, Jerusalem and the temple were utterly destroyed. Now that happened 586 BC. Ezekiel and Jeremiah and those guys, they were saying the same thing. You're desolate, barren, dry. But God was going to send a way for them to dwell with him and to be fruitful. It's attached to the true vine, Jesus Christ. And so the men of God are looking at a heavenly Jerusalem, heavenly Zion, this bride of Christ. This is everybody, the believing Jews and the believing Gentiles together as a temple of God. Your precious stones fit together as a temple of God. So Paul says, you are the Israel of God. Peter says that your precious stones, that you are a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people, the people of God. Because, I noticed I did tell you that the churches actually stopped me from speaking. That's where I noticed the freedom of speech would be taken, because it was first taken in the churches. If you don't agree with Zionism, they'll cut you off, which is kind of sad. That we should be able to love one another, continue to walk in unity and discuss things. Now, I don't mind if people, if you can be in America, you have freedom of speech. You can slander me as a Christian. That's fine, but we can talk. At least we can talk. But I'm not going to take your freedom of speech like they're pushing here. So I think the left and the right are basically playing the same game. Each side is giving people what they want, and people think they're getting something that they want, but they're actually dividing us. That's what the enemy does, is try to divide and conquer. Okay. Israel and the U.S. will always stand together because America and Israel are more than friends. We are more than partners. We are allies. Well, think about that. I like where the forefathers of America, they said, don't be engaged in foreign entanglements. These guys are so engaged, they're so far engaged that they have let Israel stick a collar around their neck like the war dog of Israel, and looks like they got a collar stuck around their testicles too. All right, the U.S. and Israel are family, descended from a common tradition. We are a family that upholds common values. No, we're not. At least I hope not. And in some ways, every nation falls short, and every nation has done corrupt things. But Israel, when they started out, a lot of people don't know. I was taught that, poor Israel, God saved them, and they've done everything right. And that's what Dory Gold was saying last year at APAC, the former ambassador of Israel, also, that, he basically made them to be a victim. But when they came into Israel, you remember the terrorism that they were doing, how they bombed the King David Hotel. I think probably 90 people died there. But they didn't just buy the land. They disguised themselves as Arabs and then bombed. See, now they do the same things. Israel agents, they make themselves out to be CIA, and they do crazy crap. Well, intelligence, every nation's going to have intelligence, and they're going to do different things. But I don't buy that we have a common tradition and value. No, it'd be nice if we did. But let's stick with God, America, and follow what Peter, Paul, John, James, Stephen, Jesus. Jesus in the book of Revelation, he does mention the synagogue of Satan twice, and those who say they're Jews and they're not. Because I noticed this physical Israel, they're trying to put themselves over every Jew in the world, up above them. No, they don't. I don't think they really care about Jews, really. No, not all the Jews have gone to Israel. They don't want to. They're happy where they're at. Some Jews have gone there, but I think it's a power and control, and not every Jew agrees with Israel. What he says, together our families share a common destiny. Well, I hope if that destiny is in Christ, the Messiah, Jesus. The America Israel alliance is stronger than ever before. Our friendship is greater than ever before. Our future is brighter than ever before. To all who cherish Israel, the Lord bless you and keep you. The best days for Israel and America are yet to come. God bless Israel and the U.S. of America, United States of America. Well, I hope you're blessed in the Lord, and I hope you seek righteousness. Seek first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all things will be added. But no, I don't agree with that. I'm a conservative Christian, but I think the left is taking away freedoms, because once you're labeled a hater, they're going to take your other freedoms too, like your guns and everything else. But hey, those who are following Jesus, you're going to go forward no matter what. It doesn't matter what they do. We're going to speak the truth, because this earth is not going to last that long. Those people that are evil, God will judge. He says righteous or judgment. Well, dang, how does he say it? Not the wrath, the judgment. Well, it's all God's. He will repay. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. He's the one that's going to repay. That's why I say we got the sword of the Spirit, that we're going to preach the gospel and the truth. And I pray that I pray that church come together in unity. that they will come into the fruition of the knowledge of Christ and grow in Him if you're Christian. And we should be loving one another as Christian and growing in unity and not disunity. And so I pray that people will grow and understand. And I pray that there is justice in the world, that we can continue to be in peace and spread the truth, the gospel, so that people can know the truth and the truth will set them free. And just I noticed there's a few websites that I thought were pretty good. If Americans Knew. Now there's this lady, Allison Weir, she did a big investigation on a lot of this stuff that was going on with Israel. She was definitely pro-Israel and towards Zionism, that kind of stuff, but when she investigated, she saw there was other stuff going on. And so there's a lot of good videos there. And then another one on YouTube, National Summit to Reassess the U.S.-Israel Special Relationship. Now, if you go down the list on YouTube and that's a good one too. You will see, because a lot of people aren't aware how much Israel has spied and stolen information from America. In 1967, they bombed the USS Liberty, and they tried to cover that up. So the intelligence gathering ship that we had, that was bombed, and I think there was 34 of our guys that got killed there, and they really tried to take that out, and thank God that one didn't sink. But these guys have been speaking up against that. Spike Bowman, naval intelligence to lawyer, he prosecuted Jonathan Pollard, one of the big spies who stole a lot of information from America that was very critical, him and his wife. And so a lot of these people that have been spying on America, when it comes up to finally prosecute him, end up getting off. Now he didn't, he served 30 years. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out so my friends and family can just step back and take a look at it. That I don't want to see America divided. I get along great with my Democrat friends. We may not agree at all, and but that's great. At least we can talk, and man, we can still hug and love each other even if we have disagreements. But I want the freedoms, at least here, that we have in the Constitution, and I don't like when I see people coming against the Constitution of America. All right, God bless you. See you later.